Good day, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Miss Beatrice, and we met before during our note session. At this point, we are going to discuss a little bit more on the exam preparation, where we have to look at the topics that we have covered throughout, and then let's see if you guys you can recall what you have studied and then how you're going to prepare for your exam. Okay, so this subject is basic information technology, and then we have to look at few topics such as usage of information technology. We are going to look at the use of cloud computing and current IT issues such as virtualization, business intelligence, and mobile applications. And then we also have looked at the usage of different web browsers and internet, and then computer application softwares and computer threat. So now let's see if you guys have covered all that when you were studying, and if you guys are recalling so well, and then if you are ready to prepare for your exam. Okay, so we have to look at the term, what's a computer? So do you remember what a computer is? So we can look at a computer as a machine that performs tasks or calculations according to a set of instructions or programs. Okay, most of people think computers are smart computers, but who makes them smart? Who program those programs? It's actually humans, but you're actually referring to artificial intelligence. But now looking at a computer is made up of components, which can be physical components and now internal components. So now for us to understand a computer, we have to look at processes like input, and then we go to the part of processing, and then we go to the output. So now with a computer, we have things like hardware and softwares. So with the hardwares, these are the parts of, we have to look at what type of hardware do we look at when we are inputting the type of a data, and then the time when it's going to be processed, and then the time it's going to be output. So we output our data. Okay, basically when we are inputting the data, at this point we have what we call raw materials of data. Like for example, we have only 1, 2 and letters A, B, C. At that moment they don't have a meaning or a necessity. And we can use few computer components here, such as a keyboard, a mouse, a computer monitor, and you can list many. And then through the process, this is the part where we use central processing unit. This is now where the set of instructions such as calculations are performed, and then this is where the raw data are being processed to become meaningful, and then they'll be output as information or proper data. For example, if I input in ABC, like let's say letters, alphabetical letters, I can able to output a data or information giving a name. For example, my name is Esther. Okay, that's a processed information. And then looking at the outputs, we have to also look at what are the components, physical components of a computer that can able to output out information. For example, we have hard drives, we have printers, we have scanners, we have projectors. So those are some of the output components, or let's say physical components of a computer that can output the data. Okay, just as I was mentioning, the types of inputs and outputs of a computer, those I mentioned few there. All right, now let's move to the computer application softwares. Now, how do you understand computer application softwares? That's a computer physically, because when you are looking at a computer, we look at the physical part, and then that physical part of a computer is what we call a hardware. So now a computer, or the physical part of a computer, cannot operate on its own. Just like a human being, we cannot operate without our brain and stuff. So we need those internal internal softwares. So now for a computer to operate, we have what we call operating systems, and then those are what you look at computer application softwares. Okay. For example, we have different types of operating systems such as Windows, Unix, Macintosh, and which are basically Apple products. You can list a lot. We have, and then if you list now through Windows, we have now different versions of each operating system. Like Windows, we have Windows XP, Vista, Windows 10, Windows 7. I'm sure you guys will have covered all that. And with Unix, if I may to give an example, we have something like Ubuntu, Solaris, and some other examples. So for you to prepare for the exam, you have to look at different types of operating systems, such as Windows. Now, what are the versions of Windows? Now, you mentioned Windows 7, Windows 1. And then with Unix, you also need to look at different types of versions of Unix, or different types of them. And then with the Apple, which is Mac, we also have different types of Mac or versions. And then with the notes that I prepared you before, guys, I think I've mentioned different types of versions of Mac. Okay, so now software applications comes now in different forms. Now for the computer to operate, we need to have operating system. Okay, that's the first thing that is installed in the computer. And then after that, we install now software applications that will enable us to use or utilize the computer. For example, Microsoft Suite. Okay, that's one we use, like Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and so forth. So some of those are the software applications. So now, for you to understand, you need to know the definition probably of software applications. Okay, and then you can mention few types of Microsoft applications. All right. Now let's look at the term cloud computing. What do you remember about cloud computing? We have different types of cloud computing nowadays. Perhaps you may not even be aware of whether you are using cloud computing or whether it is part of cloud computing, or how do you understand cloud computing? Okay, now let's look at definition. It can be defined as a collection or group of integrated or networked hardware, softwares, and internet infrastructure, and it forms up a platform. So looking at the cloud computing, it's just not made up of internet alone. So it has to be made up of a hardware, software installed, and then networked together, which is a platform of internet. Once they are integrated together, then they make up what we call cloud computing. For example, you guys use Google Drive. That's one example of a cloud computing. You can use iCloud. That's an example of a cloud computing. Anything that's where we can able to store or share our documents, and then we can able to access them anytime, anywhere in the world. For example, if you share, you put your resources on the cloud while you are in Africa, you can able to access them. Even if you travel to Europe, you can able to access them. So now that means you put them on the cloud, and then that's what we call cloud computing. Okay, cloud computing comes in different forms. I believe WhatsApp is also an example of cloud computing nowadays. All right, so you just need to know what cloud computing is, examples of different types of cloud computing, and how does it work. Okay, now looking at the current IT issues such as virtualization. Do you remember what virtualization is? And do you remember what's a mobile application? Business intelligence. So basically, like virtualization, we use virtualization in most of the cases. Nowadays, people are more into virtualization. For example, virtualization comes in forms of places where we are, like, for example, we are trying to cut out physical parts of. Like, for example, we have things like virtual labs, where we can only have one server. Okay, virtualization, we in our world we call them virtual machines, where we need to install only one server and then one physical component, maybe one server and then one computer, and then we can set up different types of virtual machines that are able to access it. Like, okay, let's say this is our server, then we can have different types of machines that can access that server virtually. Okay, they can able to share information on this server. Okay, but they are not physically connected, but they are virtually connected. That is what we call virtualization. Like virtual labs, like nowadays we have what we call learning management systems, where lecturers can able to give lectures on, or they can give classes virtually to students online, but without meeting physically. They can all log into the applications at one time. For example, the good example I can give you is like a WhatsApp group. It's a group that you have created, and then you guys are meeting there virtually. You're not meeting in physical, and then you can able to communicate at one time. That is one good example of what we call virtualization. Okay, and now looking at things like mobile application, these are the mobile apps. Mobile apps are like those apps that you install within your phones, for example, your smartphones. For example, you can install Facebook, WhatsApp, you can install any other, maybe games. Those are mobile apps. And then we call them mobile applications because they're applications that can only be utilized by mobiles. Okay, and then those are the current trends that are going on. Well, 6 years ago we didn't have such things, or let's say 10 years ago we didn't have smartphones, but now we are living in this world where we are evolving, and then the world is evolving so fast. Okay, now let's look at the computer threats and IT in general. When it comes to threats, how do you understand? Threats are like something that is of a danger when it comes to computers. What can put a computer in danger? We have things like viruses. Computer viruses are very much dangerous because they can make multiple copies of something, and then they can corrupt files. And then those are the things that you need to understand about computer threats. You need to understand different types of computer threats. Like for example, we have Trojans and hacking. People can able to phish within phishing. We call it phishing. Not the fishing of fish, but this phishing. Okay, and hacking. Someone can able to hack. When we are talking about hacking, is someone able to go on your computer and able to steal some information, maybe probably passwords, pins and stuff, and then they can able to go steal your information or violate your information other way. So those are the threats. Okay, you need to understand. Now you need to also understand how can you protect your computer from threats. For example, we use antiviruses to protect ourselves. One example of antivirus, we have Kaspersky. It's one of example of antivirus. So look up different types of antiviruses. So, and in big companies, people install what we call firewalls. They are also one usage or one way of protecting a computer from computer threats. Okay, so now looking at IT in general, we can look at what are the usage of information technology in places like universities. What do you use internet for? Information technology. Like for example, how do you search for your data? Like for example, like now we are communicating, we are not meeting physically, but you can able to access this note. So now that is a process of information technology at work. And in businesses, what is the importance, the vital usage of information technology in businesses? A lot of people communicate or share their resources via emails. They communicate through video conferencing. They can all make up meetings through video conferencing. So that is the usage of information technology. You need to understand, and then this is a comprised topic where you have to cover a lot in information technology. Think out of a box, different types of uses, what we can use with information technology. Okay, so now how does one access internet when you are at home, at work, at the college or something? We use what we call web browsers. And then in the previous notes when we discussed, I looked at different types of web browsers such as Google Chrome, Internet Explorer, Firefox. Those are one of the examples of web browsers. Those are the icons we need to have on our computer so that we can able to access internet. And then one thing that students normally confuse is search engines and then web browsers. Search engines, these are the engines where we can search for information. Basically, these are servers somewhere, and it enables us to retrieve things from the servers. So search engines and web browsers are totally different. For example, if I say Google Chrome is a web browser, but Google Search is a search engine where you can able to search for your information. You need to know types of search engines like Google Search. We have Yahoo, we have Bing, we have different types. We need to look at those different types of search engines. Okay, and then last but not least, what is an internet? How is internet made up? You need to understand the term internet, and then in your broad way, we have to understand all that. And then I think in this aspect, I think we have looked at different types of things that we have covered in our basic information technology. Things like usage of information technology, and then that is general. And then you have to think of in the aspect of you as a student, what do you use information technology for? We have looked at views of cloud computing. How do you understand the term cloud computing? And we have looked at things like virtualization, business intelligence, and mobile applications. And then last but not least, we have to look at different types of web browsers, search engines. How do they differ? What is an internet? And then we also have looked at computer applications. You need to understand different types of computer applications, because operating systems and a normal software that has to be installed in a computer is totally different. And then they have different usage, okay? And lastly, we looked at computer threat. You need to understand all those in depth. And then above all, I'm wishing you all the best in your exam, and then study well.